Now we will discuss some Wolffian example, and among them we will primarily look at the lexical and the grammatical examples. Wolff provided a number of examples designed to show that linguistic determinism and relativity are both the valid concept. They can be broadly organized into lexical and grammatical examples. The simplest of them was known as the lexical examples, in which he provided different contrastive analysis of the words and grammatical structure used in Hopi language. In Hopi, according to Wolff, there are two words for water. It can be seen as one word which says ki, and the other one is pahe. Ki means water in container, and pahe refers to water in sea or pond or waterfall, etc. So he said that in two different languages, for a single object, you have multiple names. For example, in Hopi language, for water there are two names, and in English, this water is water for all kind of situation. Another one is, which is also well known, is the example of Eskimos. In their language, Wolff states that as in English, snow is there and you have one word which is snow, reflects to snow on ground or slushy snow, snowfall, etc. But in Eskimo, they have multiple names refer to snow. For example, apot, which means snow on ground. Then you have kana, which means snowfall, or kimaksak, which is basically snowdrift. So these are the lexical examples that Wolff provided, and now we will look at other examples in detail. Lexical examples we have to look at in terms of the first important aspect, which is differentiation. Differentiation refers to the number of words in a given domain, for example, color, birds, fruits, and so on in lexicon. A more highly differentiated domain has more words, some of which express finer distinctions such as subtle shades of color. According to Wolff, languages differ in the domains that are most differentiated. That is, all languages show high degree of differentiation in some domains and low degrees in the other. Now, this implication is that greater degrees of differentiation are related to culturally significant concepts. Again, he gave the example of Hopi, which he noted that just one word covers everything that flies except birds. For example, the same word for insect, airplane, aviators, and so on. The Hopi speaker calls all of these objects by the same name without any apparent difficulty. Then he moves on to say that languages differ in the degree to which they differentiate various lexical domains does not seem to be the issue. The question is whether these differences lead to differences in thinking. Wolff suggested that they do. They do in the sense that when we encounter a particular word on a regular basis, it may influence our habitual thought pattern. That is, the kind of thought process that comes easily or naturally to an individual. Wolff gave an example based on his work experience in which he sought explanation for the start of fires. Initially, he only considered physical causes, such as defective wiring. Over time, he came to think that psychological causes were important. The meaning of a situation to an individual often was directly related to the onset of fire. And this meaning was often in the form of linguistic meaning, such as meaning typically conveyed by a particular word. And then he moved on to quote a number of examples, number of words which were presented in such a situation, such as storage of what are called gasoline drums, empty gasoline drums, and so on. Worf offered this as an evidence of linguistic determination of the power of words to influence processes. He, particularly when he was using the words, he said, and I quote, "Thus, around a storage of what are called gasoline drums, behavior will tend to a certain type, that is, great care will be exercised, while around a storage of what are called empty gasoline drums, it will tend to be different. Yet the empty drums are perhaps the most dangerous since they contain explosive vapor. Physically, the situation is quite hazardous, but the linguistic analysis according to regular analogy must employ the word empty, which is inevitably suggest lack of hazard." So basically, through this example, Worf has tried to convince that the power of the words to influence thought process cannot be ruled out. So Worf's example is the evidence of linguistic determination and also power of words to influence thought processes. He believes that when we encounter a word on regular basis, it does affect our thought process.